That's great. Yep, no worries. All right, so just before we kick off, in the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to the elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. So we know we've all seen the AIM committee today, and welcome to the two new members, Ron and Michelle. AIM seeks to support those engaged in the business of animal management and the function itself by providing training and information, opportunities for networking and collaboration, and by encouraging the use of best practice policy and practices. And we welcome new members. You can encourage your colleagues to join at our website, aim.org.au. So once I hand over to Claire, there'll be about 30 minutes of presentation and around 10 minutes of question time once the presentation is concluded. The recording of this webinar will be accessible via our website to all members to watch at any time. We're going to ask that everyone mutes themselves during the presentation unless our presenter indicates otherwise. And if you have questions, you can start putting them in the Q&A section and we'll get through as many as we can at the end of the session. If you have very quick questions that relate to your understanding of the content, put your hand up and we'll try to get to them during the presentation. If you have more questions or we don't get to yours during the question time, you can send us a message to our Facebook page and we'll get to it that way. So I'm happy to introduce our presenter for today, Clare Douglas-Haynes, and a big congratulations to her and her team for being finalists in the local government section of the Companion Animal Rescue Awards for this year, and the announcements will be made as to who the winners are for that very soon. So we're crossing fingers for the team at City of Ballarat. But Clare is the coordinator of animal services at City of Ballarat, and she has a background in vet nursing and animal science and has worked in local government for the last 12 years. Her intention and objective has always been to better the welfare of all animals in the municipality and provide a strong team to support the community. So over to you, Clare.
Thanks, Nell. Thanks, Brenton, for the formal start to the meeting. Thanks for having me. I hope I can at least, if you can get at least one thing out of what I'm presenting today, that's really great. I guess probably just to start off, this is a really big team effort for us to be finalists. It's really nice for it to be acknowledged, but it is a team effort. You really do need the support of your council behind you. It's not as simple as just saying, you know, when you work for local government that you see a need, you've really got to prove it. So as and yeah, I'm happy to be presenting today. So as Nell was saying, yeah, I do have a background in vet nursing, animal science, and obviously been with local government since about 2010. I actually, funnily enough, started off in the after hours area and sort of worked my way up. We currently have the animal services team, which is made up of the animal management team and the animal shelter. And we all work together. At the moment, we're in bubbles, which is horrific, but we generally work together as our team, and that team is about 20 staff all up. We service around 5 other shires, so some really closely located shires, as well as a number of regional shires in Victoria who've used our services. So I've got a few slides, and like I said before, I'm not great with Zoom, so let me know if it's not working or if the slides aren't coming across. I thought I would start off with just what Ballarat is, some of our stats. So we've got a population of around 110,000. We've seen a huge boom, obviously, this year with COVID and last year. We cover quite a fair bit of square kilometres, and we've got around 25,000 animals registered. That is nowhere near accurate. I think we've got at least another 10,000 animals that could be registered. So we're working on that. And that's something that we're slowly building up as we sort of build up the trust of the community that registration is not revenue raising. There is a reason for it. The animal shelter can impound about 2,800 animals per year. And at full capacity, it's around 78, 80 dogs and probably closer to 200 cats. We haven't been anywhere near those numbers during COVID, so probably averaging maybe a third of what we normally would. And we have quite a fair few declared menacing dogs and 7 declared dangerous dogs within our shire. And we impound everything. It's not just dogs and cats. We had a golden pheasant in, which I'd never even knew was a real bird. So we impound everything, stray goats, cows, horses, everything. They come through to us. Over the last 10 years, look, I've strongly pushed for local government to be more proactive in animal welfare. And I have always believed it is the local government's responsibility to not only enforce and regulate the Domestic Animals Act, but to introduce a more successful model of education and community development, and probably more responsibility from the municipality through the animal services team. So in 2017, we actually took over from the previous organisation of our pound. We took over the full pound and shelter operations, and we have kind of been, that was kind of on the radar for a few years before 2017. And when we made the decision in 2017 to do it, we did it knowing that we were taking on quite a big role, but also knowing that we needed to provide a better standard. So the previous standard probably wasn't meeting community expectations, which isn't the be all and end all, but we really weren't meeting codes of practices, welfare, nothing. It was very simply quite a big shortcoming in the standard required for animal care. So we decided we wanted to achieve as a local government what was realistic financially, as well as what was better for the animals in the municipality. So when the City of Ballarat did assume responsibility of the shelter, the existing structure was reviewed, including the objectives for the shelter and the service and its position and perception in the community. It was really imperative that our senior leadership and executive leadership team were committed to the cause, and our key objective was to become part of the community and to provide ongoing support to the animals and to their owners. That previously wasn't the case. It was more just very simply just a pound operation. We really wanted to be more than that. So one of the first structural changes that we introduced was to amalgamate the animal management team and the animal services team. So probably like a lot of you, that still was part of the Reg Services compliance team. And what we really wanted to do, what was really important, was that we got rid of the old stigma of dog catcher and revenue raiser. And we wanted to make sure that we were actually an asset for the community. Like, how do we get involved with the community? What can we offer? And really, the biggest key thing to this was setting our strategic goals. So having strategic goals and making sure that our council plan supported this, as well as our domestic animal management plan, was really key. And on this slide that I've got up now, the ones that we came up with was, we really want a new shelter. We're currently working out of an abattoir, which is a bit of an oxymoron. But so one of our new strategic goals was we want to design and implement and construct a new sustainable shelter for our animals. We also wanted to provide a community-focused educational hub, something that's accessible for all of the residents, and one that really encourages responsible pet ownership. So rather than the pound and shelter just being somewhere for stray unwanted animals, how do we get the community to interact with us and for it to be like a key educational hub? We also really wanted to increase community awareness around animal welfare and provide relatable, proactive local government service to facilitate this. By setting the standard like quite high of what we expected, we were hoping that if we could provide a shelter which had more community interaction, then the community would hopefully see that the animal management officers weren't there just to regulate, but also to educate. And that goes the same with animal welfare. And really important, we wanted to be leaders in local government. We wanted to promote change around domestic animals. And, you know, what's that saying? You accept the behaviour you walk past. We wanted to make sure that any behaviour we were accepting was something that we ourselves really did think was okay. So 4 years in, I'm really proud of where we are as a local government. I think probably the key thing that we wanted to work on was as I've said, we really want to change the stigma around the animal shelter and the local government. And one of the key things of that was, how do we prove to the community that we are committed to giving animals a second chance and to being there for the community, for the people and for the animals. One of the first initiatives that we wanted to look at was reducing the length of stay and our euthanasia rate, which was quite high when we took over both of them. So the point of entry, basically from a very early point of view, we figured out that the way that the animals come into the facility determine its length of stay, if it's unidentified, unowned or surrendered. So the biggest change for us started here at the point of entry. Previously, the animal management officers liked animals, but didn't really have any skill set specifically to animal behaviour. So we employed animal management team with really highly developed animal handling experience and skill sets that ensured that the transition from capture to shelter was smooth and a positive experience for animals. When I first started with local government, again, going back to that stigma and revenue raising, really unfriendly, unapproachable stigma, and one we are working really hard to dispose of within the community. And you will hear me bring it up a lot. We are really fighting to push back. Like, you would go out in your ranger vehicle and people would walk away from you or swear at you. I'm sure you've all been part of this. And what we wanted to do was people to see us and be like, hey, they might be able to help me out with something. And having the animal management team show up at our dog parks and really educate has done wonders for the way that the community views us. So basically, the idea of getting these AMOs in to be really experienced animal officers was that the dogs were no longer polled or thrown into a car and then just thrown into a cage at the shelter. And then you spend the next 3 or 4 days trying to get them to calm down when they're so wired up. Ensuring that the animal comes into the shelter environment in a positive manner really did mean a quicker turnaround in training and getting the animals to trust the staff. And this just assisted massively with the rehoming process. It's probably one of the biggest, I can't stress how important this has been, and it's been so successful. So the length of stay we have now for dogs is really, really quick. If they're not reclaimed, we can get them adopted within 7 or 8 days, which is phenomenal. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is we've got an ethics committee within our shelter. We introduced this pretty early on, and what the basic key component of it is every week before our vet days, we have 2 vet days a week where the vet comes in. We discuss every animal that comes in, any animal that we have got concerns about, any animal that comes in. And by day 4, we know what's going to happen to them by day 8. The ones that we try and work with, we'll put down as a further time required. So by day 4, if we're not sure how they're going to go, we'll give them extra time. Are they ready to go out for adoption on day 8? Can we put them up for adoption? Do we need to transfer them out to rescue, or do we need to look for one of our foster carers, or do we need to euthanize? Having that day 4 means we're really on top of the animals. They don't get lost in the path of the shelter. This ethics committee has done wonders, and we've brought the euthanasia rates down dramatically. Last year, we euthanized just under 7% of dogs. All of those dogs we euthanized were from court orders or were highly aggressive animals that we couldn't get out to a rescue. Sorry, that was just under 7% of cats and under 3% of dogs. So all of the dogs we euthanized last year were highly aggressive or court orders. So that's fantastic. I think we've brought that down. When we took over, it was sitting at about 14%. So that was huge that we were able to do that. And that really boosted the staff morale as well, seeing those euthanasia rates. Probably the biggest thing that has helped us with those euthanasia rates as well is our rescue and foster network. So we've currently got 35 active rescue groups with 84 Ys. We've got 25 consistent foster carers that take our cats and dogs and poultry if they need to, if they're not thriving in the shelter environment, which we know happens to a lot of animals. We've also got a really good working relationship with Strong Heart Sanctuary, who help us if they can't take our livestock or poultry. direct us in the area of someone who can. Just having the rescue and foster network support us, and there was a little bit of trepidation at the start because we are a council pound, but they can sort of see the work that we're doing now, and they have really gone above and beyond to help us out, and it's made a huge difference. I guess the biggest thing is too, like with regards to all of the animals that we have, we know that our rescue is more important now than ever. I'm really pleased with the progress that we're making. I recently sat on the pet rehoming task force in a bid to have a look at the rescue and foster groups. And yes, there is a long way to go, but just having a look at this slide that I've got up on the screen now, we've come from little data known about rescue and fosters to last year, over 10% of our cats that would have absolutely have been a use before we had our rescue and foster network, they went out. So that's huge. And we got really good feedback from all of those animals. Possibly it's taken a bit longer for them to be worked with, but they did get that second chance, which has been phenomenal. The network that we sort of built up is really imperative, because if the animals are struggling in the shelter, we know that the true behaviours don't come out in the shelter environment. And just having these rescue and foster groups on hand to take on these animals, it's just massive. And we've reciprocated, like I think last year we took on 27 cats from a rescue group. I think they collected about 100. We took 27 of them. And I like having that back and forth. I like being able to support them as much as we can, and vice versa. We're all on the same page. And while it does take a little longer for rescues to possibly trust a council environment, I do think we've made a lot of waves in that area. One of the key things that I have pushed for as a major initiative for us, and one which has built up our stronger networks with Strong Heart Sanctuary and other rescue groups, is our officers are all authorised under POCTA. So we can issue notices, we can seize, we can issue charges in court. It's a lot more work. It is a lot more work. I know that there's probably not many councils out there who do authorise their officers under POCTA, but basically when we took over the animal shelter, we did see that there was a huge gap in the immediate response of animal welfare calls within our council shire. So we noticed there was a big gap. We knew that we needed to do something and couldn't expect other regulators to just be solely responsible. So we got the support from our council. And yeah, we basically addressed over 200 calls a year. This is not even, that number that you see on the screen at the moment is not including our after-hour call-outs for animal welfare. We have got a lot of positive feedback from the community, and I think it has certainly changed the way that people view us, because we do want to help. We don't just say, I'm sorry, we're not authorised, we can't do that, you need to call someone else. Made a huge difference, and we do get the feedback that we get from the rescue groups as well as our community has been really instrumental in us moving forward. Now, it is absolutely more work. It is it's given another 30% work to the animal management team. But because we've got officers who are invested and who are passionate about making a difference, they have just taken it in their stride, and it's just been part and parcel of something that we've been able to offer the community moving forward. It's probably something that, you do need to get your council on board with it, because it does take on more work. We issue our own charges and do our own magistrates within our animal management team. So this was just something else that we added on to that. I've got a couple of slides here, and they're not too confronting for anyone. I'm sure you've all seen them before. Just back to this one. So we have been getting, especially over COVID, a lot of surrendered animals, a lot of animals that have been abandoned, the ones that owners just simply can't afford to feed anymore. So The little black dog there on the left, that's Penny. She's actually a German short-haired pointer, although she looked more like a whippet when she came in, and she'd been left at a property for 4 days. We actually picked her up under the DAA. We didn't use POCTA for that because it was a rental that she was in. But just having her, we sent out something on our Facebook page saying, if you are struggling, don't just leave them there, just drop them off to us. We're happy to help, or we can also give food if you need to. And just from that one post, I think we had about 50 or 60 people ring up and request food for their animals over COVID. The sheep in the middle is Elsie. We went out to a property of about 30 cats and she was out there. She was standing in this photo. About 4 days later, after about 3 days of heavy rainfall, we went back out and she was completely waterlogged. She couldn't stand. So we took her under POCTA and we worked with the owner as well. You know, the owners, everyone's been struggling the last 18, 24 months. So it's a joint effort. The dog on the right was actually a Doberman who fell down an old dam on a farmer's property and he couldn't get out. So our officers went in there to look after him and get him out. Previously, without those POCTA authorisations, we wouldn't have been able to get onto the property and get the dog out. So just having that just makes us a bit more accessible for the community and means that we can help. I just wanted to put these in because this sheep that's stuck in the tree still makes me laugh. Our rangers got a few calls from this. It was very early in the morning. They couldn't get onto the farmer, so they had to get the sheep out of the tree. We also we've got a really great relationship with our SES and fire brigade too. And when we do get these after hour call outs of this cow that was stuck in the dam, we get loads of cats in walls and kittens in roofs, all of that kind of stuff. So we assist as much as we possibly can, and the community can see that and they really appreciate that. The other initiative that I think is really important to talk about, social media. So we had to work really hard to get a Facebook page. As with a lot of your local governments, I'm sure, the policy and the procedures that go into setting up a Facebook page and social media are massive. There's a lot of hesitancy. You do leave yourself wide open for criticism. But we've got nearly 10,000 followers now, which is approximately 10% of the Ballarat population, and we're working on getting those numbers up. So this Facebook page has actually been instrumental in showcasing what the AMOs do regarding the welfare cases, reuniting pets with their owners, really showing that we are trying to be a proactive animal shelter and that we're trying to do a lot of good in the community as well. We would not be able to reach the demographic that we wanted to reach without a Facebook page. I do wish we were more media savvy. I have been told that to stay relevant on a Facebook page, you actually need to be posting 5 or 6 times a day. That is so unrealistic. I think we try and do 2 or 3 a week. But even those ones, I think we did a post up about working dogs with Kelpies, and I think we got about 4,000 likes. So this is definitely the way to reach your community and to connect with your community. It really has been phenomenal. I would love a YouTube channel, a TikTok channel, if that's what they're called, Instagram, all of that. But slowly with council, the Facebook page was our first stepping stone. And it is way better than a web page too. So everyone's on Facebook. Social media is such a key part to getting your message out and getting what you want the community to see for you as well. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, another initiative too, is the owned pet reclaim. So one of the key factors for assuming control over operations in 2017 was the amount of times we got told by people that they could not afford to reclaim their animal. So the fees were of such a high nature, it would inevitably lead to the forfeit of a pet because they just couldn't afford to get them out. So we've gone from regular repeat offenders, which the AMOs would pick up weekly, to perhaps having around 3 repeat offenders for our whole community. And we're actually waiting 84W court orders on those ones. But I just wanted to go through, like, this really was one of the key concerns that kept coming up. So the reclaim fees were huge, a couple of $100 plus registration and microchipping if they weren't done. Pet owners weren't able to pay the release fee. They weren't able to collect the animal on that same day because the facility closed at 4. And those repeat offenders that were getting out were given no guidance as to why their pets were getting out. Why are your dog jumping the fence all the time? Who's trapping your cat that brings it in all the time? So one of the things that we put on basically as a trial when we started was we did no release fee if they were registered on that first day. There was only one daily impound cost. So if your dog was there for 2 days, you'd get charged for nothing for the first day and the second day would be one. And then after that, you would basically be going up to the 8 days, but there would never be the lump fee of, I think it was about $240 to get them out initially. So there was a lot of wariness at the start. People were saying, you know, I can't afford to get it out. And we're like, there's no fee if your animal's registered. Just go up and get your animal. And we're actually really proud of our reclaim stats now. So you can see from these 2 graphs here, we average about 65% reclaims now, which is up considerably from what it used to be prior to when we took over. Even cats, who are the most impossible animals to get reclaimed, we have seen a huge lift in reclaims just with reducing that reclaim fee. It has been huge. You need to work out what the cost is of your animals and the pricing and everything like that. And it is a bit daunting when you look at your budget. You think, I'm not going to make any money. But if they go straight away and you get them registered and then you stop why they're going to come in again, you have really cleared up a really huge issue. And this reclaim rate is another reason that we've brought our euthanasia rates down as well. So really proud of that as far as reclaims go. The other thing that I really wanted to talk about, and this will be the last initiative that I bring in, I'm just conscious that I don't go over time here, is we really did want to become a community asset. So as important as your Meals on Wheels and many of the other things that local government offers, like we really have the opportunity here to be a community asset. The things that we provide service-wise for our community go above and beyond just a pound and dog ranges. I'm going to have a chat to you about some of the things that we do. So a big key thing was I actually helped write the Municipal Emergency Management Plan for animals. So we support families and displaced animals from fires, flood, natural disasters. We assisted, there was a Smythes Creek fire here a couple of years ago. We assisted with accommodation, food, some preliminary vet treatment, boarding advice for all the animals. We work really closely with domestic violence organisations and we provide emergency boarding for those affected that are unable to take their pets with them. This initiative has been huge for supporting our community and it has given many animals the ability to leave a situation because they can place their pet with us while they source safer housing. So we support programs such as Berry Street, Uniting Care, Salvation Army, Orange Door. It's one less thing for them to have to worry about. And really, if they don't have anyone else, we know that a lot of people will stay in situations if they don't want to leave their animals there. So we take that away from them. It's one less thing to have to worry about. We actually also provide in-house care for those affected by mental health. We've got a few regulars now. So we've got working relationships with the hospitals and they'll call us and let us know and say, so-and-so has come in again. And you come and collect the keys and feed their animals until they're ready to leave again. And that's just something, we had to jump through a few hoops. The risk, the OH&S that works with it, it's not a simple process. You can't just input it and to work. You have to do a lot to protect your staff as well. But it is also about providing that other bit for the community. We also have housing and care for our homeless contingent. So there are 4 dogs, I think, that live with some of our homeless people at the moment. We know them all. The police know to call us if they see the animals wandering, and we basically look after them until their owners can come and collect them again. We also have seized dog holding facilities. Not great. We need a new facility specifically for this. but we average around 8 long-term seized dogs per year. Our longest dog that we had here was about 20 months. The 3 dogs that we've had here, the longest have all been American Bulldogs. But we actually take these on from other shires, and we really put the work in to make their remainder of their life, because most of them are waiting for a court case with not really positive outcomes. But we work with them quite specifically. Our staff are fantastic with these guys, and these are scary dogs. They're highly volatile, high risk dogs. We work really closely with them to get them to a stage where they trust us. They're safe for us to move around the facility and go outside, and we try and give them a more enriched life rather than them just being hauled from pen to pen, waiting for a court date. We also work really closely with our doggy daycare and local dog trainers in Ballarat. So it's one of the things that we do quite often. We'll get together with them. We'll refer some people that call up animals that, you know, may be getting investigated for dog attacks. We'll try and give them as much support from the shelter as possible. And it's something that we've seen a really positive feedback from that as well. Previously, people were probably scared to come to the shelter or to the AMOs because they weren't sure if they were going to get in trouble. But we're finding more people are ringing up and saying, hey, this is happening. How can you help me out with it? So we try and stop the problem before it escalates. COVID was a really big thing for us. Providing the pet food to the struggling families was huge. Once the community realised that's what we were doing, the donations of food just came flooding in. It was really lovely to see. We also work really closely with our local high schools, primary schools. We have regular, each semester, some Year 9 students from a lot of our high schools come in and they volunteer and they do a full semester with us. That's just been fantastic. I've got a couple of slides here which I just want to show you. These are I'm really sorry about the condition of the pens and everything. We are trying to get a new facility. These are our seized dog pens. This dog is American Bulldog. I think he spent a total of nearly 2 years. I'll just go back to that one in a pound situation. That's him and his friend. They were waiting court, which kept getting adjourned. And they came from a council who basically was having a bit of trouble handling them and wanted them to have more of an enriched life. So we took them on, muzzle trained them both and put a fair bit of work into them. And they ended up being really relaxed, which was really lovely. This is one of our emergency boarders that came from a domestic violence situation. That is a cool room, if you were wondering. We had to convert an old cool room as her whelping room. So she came with 8 puppies. We de-sexed all the puppies, gave her full vet care, treatment and everything. We offered that for the owner. Here's some of our school and community groups. We're actually really lucky. At least once a week, one of the schools or community groups do a fundraiser and we get a huge supply of cat scratching posts, beds, treats, toys, wet food, everything. It's phenomenal. The community support that we get always blows me away, and I love how involved they all get with it as well. So I guess I just want to finish off. Supporting your community will become really apparent, and they will begin to support you if you put some measures in place to show that you are there for the right reasons. I wanted to say that, you know, we previously, when I first started, we would issue a lot of infringements all the time and they would never get paid. And it was a bit of a vicious cycle. So I'm really proud of where we are now as a shelter, but also as an animal services team, and especially as a local government. And I just think that there is just so much that we could be doing more. We have seen our community support become huge. We get a lot of monetary donations now as well, who see what we do out in the community. And we also get bereavement requests. The seized dogs alone, we make probably around $70,000 a year, just taking on those dogs from other shires that possibly can't take them on. So while budget restraints are a big thing, you can make your money back. It shouldn't be the key thing though, just focusing on money. But yeah, it's one of those things that there's so far for us to go, but I'm really proud of the way that we're heading it. And it really is a team effort. That's all I've got from my presentation. I am happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
That was amazing, Claire. And I know there's so much more that you can talk about. I know there's so much more that you guys are doing, but it's really clear to see why you guys have been shortlisted in the awards, because the work is just amazing. And we do have some questions for you. So yeah, lots of people are really impressed. Susan says, very impressive work, congratulations. And a question about who is on the ethics committee.
Yeah, thank you for that. So our ethics committee we have observation sheets each day, and the staff can all put observations on what they think. Whoever is working with the animal will take those observations to the ethics committee. It's myself, a manager, and a member of our vet team. Great.
Yeah, it's a good mix. Yeah. And just quickly before I forget, I was just wondering what was happening with your registration numbers. Have you seen your registration numbers do anything different in the time that you've been making these changes? Like, has it had an impact on that side of things as well, or not so much?
Look, not as much as I would have thought. The registration, and we've got quite a low registration fee too. There's still trying to change that reluctancy of lots of people still think, don't need to register my animal, it never gets out. So we are still working on that, but it hasn't probably been as big a change as we would have hoped. That's definitely a work in progress.
Yeah, I think it is for everyone. And questions around funding. How did you fund the extra activities that you do now?
Yeah, so funding is the key thing. I had to really show reducing the reclaim rates was a really scary thing, because everyone's like, we're not going to get our money back. But we did make it back because people started to see us more. So funding, we are a local government. We don't have DGR status. Any money that we make in our donations goes straight back into the animals for surgeries that are not considered routine. We do rely on any sort of outside of the box funding to come from the public, but I can also say that the City of Ballarat is really supportive of these extracurricular activities. So we'd be lucky in that regard.
Yeah, they can really see the value. Yeah. Brenton asks, how did your council respond to the additional work and additional costs associated with animal welfare, as opposed to, I guess, animal management distinctly? I can appreciate that there are improved outcomes for the animals and community, but some decisions are based on the cost.
Yeah, spot on. They absolutely are. So I guess they were really confronted by it. So, you know, especially the welfare things, people would go straight to our media if something wasn't done straight away. The dog attacks that were in the media, like, you couldn't really hide from it. It was in their face. Our leadership team, our directors were constantly seeing this stuff in the media. The community is constantly writing in about it. And once you kind of get that in your face, you can't ignore it and push it away. And that was probably the key thing. Once we decided to take it on, and we're like, yes, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it properly. The costs do add up. It's not cheap. I still think it's cheaper than maybe relying on everyone else to do something, but it's the positive feedback that you get from the community. For example, when one of the Berry Street, one of the domestic violence groups, contacts the mayor and the CEO directly and says, thank you so much to your shelter team for what they do, starts to filter back in that the costs are totally justified.
Absolutely. And it's really difficult to put a cost on that community support, you know, and the improvements that you may not be seeing directly in the shelter or on the ground, but it's changing on a social level in the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I think that is it for the questions. It's been a brilliant presentation, and I've had a request if you wouldn't mind emailing me your presentation so I could actually post that on our website with the video, with the recording. Would that be okay, Claire?
Yeah, no problems.
All right, lovely. Yeah, some people had to go, unfortunately, but yeah, lots of, you know, it's mind-blowing to see how differently things can be done and the effects that it can have. So, you know, well done. Oh, actually, we've got one more question from Diana, I think. Maybe not. I can't see it coming up. She said one more. Oh, here you go. Have you seen a shift in the time budget of your AMOs from enforcement-centric work to a mix? Has this affected your AMOs and their attitudes towards their work?
Yeah, we absolutely have. So previously it was 100% enforcement. That was all they did, enforcement. Now you're probably looking at about 50-50. So we do 50% enforcement, and then the rest 50% is proactive, responsible pet ownership, welfare cases, all of that kind of stuff. Huge shift. We have made a really conscious effort to nip things in the bud. So rather than, you know, if a dog gets out, we really use the term escalating behaviour really strongly in our team. If we have a dog and we think it's got an escalating behaviour and it's likely to get worse, we jump on it straight away so it doesn't become an enforcement issue in 6 months' time. That proactive work, it was a lot. Like at the start, it was a lot, but it's kind of settled down a bit more. We do have the 2 full-time AMOs plus a team leader of animal management who does our prosecutions. Which isn't very much, but we can rely on the shelter staff to come out and help, especially at the moment. For example, we're doing a lot of patrols about dogs on lead, behaviour off lead, all of that stuff. So it's definitely 50-50 compared to 100% enforcement of a few years ago.
And that preventative and proactive work also saves you money, although it's difficult, once again, to put a direct dollar figure on that. But when it's linked to more positive work that your staff are doing, and that change in perhaps a reduction in compassion fatigue, perhaps an increase in motivation to come to work, perhaps a decrease in sick days, or, you know, things like that, it's a really interesting thing to look at, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I think that's the key thing right there, because this environment can be so emotionally draining. The compassion fatigue that you said is a very real thing. Since we've introduced these measures, I can honestly say I haven't had one case of compassion fatigue in the last 18 months. Phenomenal.
So
when we started, you could see it on people's faces, but we really are making a difference, and the staff can see that and they can feel like they're actually making a difference too. I should reiterate, it's not all roses. You know, we still deal with the dregs of society, but changing that mindset of like, oh, this is terrible, I can't believe I have to deal with this puppy farm. It's like, what can we do to fix it? Like, we've put our thinking caps on. We're authorised under POCTA. What can we do to fix it?
And on that note, we've had a question from Susan, and I might put this out to everyone. Do you know of any other states where AMOs can be regulated under POCTA or an Animal Welfare Act as inspectors? I think perhaps New South Wales can.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about anyone else. If anyone knows, maybe pop it in the chat. Maybe that's something we could ask our on our Facebook page. Make a note now. All right, we will wrap it up. I'm sure you've got tons to do, Claire, and we really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us all today and to present your amazing team's work. So yeah, really inspiring. Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone for attending. We've got one more webinar for this year, which will be next month, and the announcement will be released soon. So keep an eye on our social media pages and the e-news for those announcements. And always feel free to send us through suggestions for topics or presenters that you'd like to see featured. So take care, everybody. Thank you so much for attending today and for supporting AIM and its work. And good luck, Claire and team, in the awards finals. So have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Nell. Bye, everyone.